James Crawford had it all: money, charm, and a heart made of stone. He was a master manipulator, weaving a web of lies so intricate that even he struggled to keep track. He was the perfect husband, or so 3 women in 3 different cities believed. In New York, he was the devoted spouse of Victoria Reynolds, an influential fashion mogul. She was mesmerized by his charm, his deep understanding of her ambitions, and the way he always seemed to know exactly what she needed. He accompanied her to high-profile galas, whispering sweet praises in her ear as they walked hand in hand under flashing lights. On their anniversary, he surprised her with an intimate getaway to the Maldives, a private beach villa where they spent passionate nights wrapped in each other's arms. In return, Victoria lavished him with the finest suits, an executive suite in her designer brand's headquarters, and access to her elite social circles. She felt lucky to have a man who supported her so profoundly, unaware that his loyalty was nothing but an illusion. In Chicago, Olivia Carter, a real estate tycoon, believed she had found her soulmate in James. They had built a life of power and luxury together, one that she thought was unshakable. James played the role of a devoted partner perfectly, joining her at business meetings, helping her finalize million-dollar property deals, and making love to her in their penthouse overlooking the city skyline. He was her rock during stressful negotiations, the man who held her close on stormy nights, whispering that they were unstoppable together. To thank him for being the best husband she could ask for, Olivia gifted him a fleet of luxury cars, purchased a summer home in Aspen under his name, and secured him a position as co-owner in one of her most lucrative properties. She felt safe in his embrace, never suspecting that he held another woman in the same way miles away. Then there was Dr. Camila Hernandez, a renowned gynecologist in Miami. She adored James for his unwavering support of her demanding career, the way he understood when she had to work late nights, and how he never made her feel guilty for putting her patients first. He often surprised her with candlelit dinners after exhausting shifts, running her bubble baths as he massaged her shoulders, whispering how proud he was of her. He spent weekends with her on her yacht, cruising through the Florida Keys, drinking fine wine under the stars before making love under the warm ocean breeze. As a woman who had always been fiercely independent, Camila saw James as the first man who truly cherished and respected her. She gave him access to her wealth, paid off one of his supposed business loans, and even put him in charge of her private medical investments. She had no idea she was merely funding a fantasy. For a year, James juggled his marriages, playing the role of the perfect husband in each city. His schedule was meticulously crafted. Every business trip, every meeting, every anniversary carefully planned to ensure his secrets remained buried. Each woman had given him her heart, her wealth, her body, believing he was the one man who would never betray them. But fate had a cruel sense of humor. Victoria and Olivia had once been childhood friends, inseparable until life took them in different directions. 20 years had passed since they had last seen each other. Unbeknownst to them, their paths were about to cross in the most unexpected way. Both women were experiencing complications in their pregnancies and, by pure coincidence, sought out the same specialist, Dr. Camila Hernandez. They each traveled to Miami, unaware of the connection they shared beyond their growing bellies. When Victoria arrived at the clinic for her appointment, she was shocked to find another familiar face in the waiting room. "Olivia?" she gasped, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Victoria? Oh my God, I haven't seen you in over 20 years," Olivia exclaimed, embracing her long-lost friend. The reunion was joyful, full of laughter and nostalgia. Camila, watching the exchange, smiled warmly. "You two know each other?" she asked curiously. "We grew up together," Victoria said excitedly. What a small world. Neither woman suspected that their connection ran far deeper than childhood friendship. Camila, meanwhile, was simply pleased to witness such a touching moment, until the moment that would change everything happened. The door to Camila's office swung open, and in walked James Crawford, a bouquet of roses in hand. "Surprise, darling," he announced with a charming smile. Silence fell like a crashing wave. 3 pairs of eyes widened in shock, the room suddenly suffocating with tension. James' confident smile faltered as his mind raced to process the scene before him. Victoria was the first to speak, her voice barely above a whisper. "James?" Olivia turned to her, confused. "You know him?" Camila's face drained of color. "Wait, what's going on?" Victoria clutched her stomach, realization hitting her like a truck. "He's my husband." Olivia stumbled back, shaking her head. "No, he's my husband." Camila felt the air leave her lungs. "No, he's my husband too." The weight of their words crashed down on James like an avalanche. He took a step back, his mind scrambling for a way out, but there was none. His perfect house of cards had come tumbling down in the worst way imaginable. Rage ignited in Victoria's eyes. "You lied to us all. You used us." Olivia's hands clenched into fists. "I gave you everything, James. I trusted you." Camila, usually the composed and rational doctor, felt hot tears sting her eyes. "I devoted my life to you. And you?" She choked, her voice trembling. "You made me a fool." The three women, once strangers, now stood united in their pain. They exchanged glances, an unspoken understanding passing between them. Victoria's voice was steady but laced with venom. "What do we do with a man who betrays three powerful women?" Olivia smirked through her pain. "We make him pay." Camila, still clutching her white coat, let out a slow breath. In the most poetic way possible. James had never felt fear like this before. Days later, James received a message from Victoria, asking him to meet her at a penthouse suite. Desperate to salvage something, anything, he agreed. When he arrived, he was met not by Victoria alone but by Olivia and Camila as well. The three women stood together, their expressions unreadable. Victoria held out a document. "Your time's up, James. We reported you. Bigamy is a crime. Remember?" His face paled. Olivia tossed another document onto the table. "We froze your assets. Every account, every investment. You're broke." Camila smirked, holding up his passport. "And you? You're not leaving the country. You're staying here to face every consequence." James stumbled back, sweat beading on his forehead. "No, you can't do this to me." Victoria leaned in, her voice a whisper of pure malice. "We already did." Sirens wailed outside. A loud knock echoed through the suite. "James Crawford, open up," a voice commanded. James turned, his last instinct to run. But Olivia blocked his way, her voice chilling. Game over. His world had collapsed. The women he had deceived had orchestrated his downfall, ensuring he would face the justice he so desperately deserved. As the door burst open and officers stormed inside, James realized this wasn't just revenge. It was reckoning, and it was far from over. James Crawford sat in the cold, dimly lit interrogation room, his wrists shackled to the metal table before him. The scent of stale coffee and disinfectant filled the air, mingling with the heavy weight of his downfall. The reality of his situation had begun to sink in. The once powerful man, who had manipulated 3 successful women with ease, now found himself stripped of everything. His wealth, his freedom, his pride. The door creaked open, and in walked Detective Marcus Rowe, a seasoned investigator with a keen eye for deception. He dropped a thick file onto the table with a loud thud, making James flinch. "Quite the life you built for yourself," Rowe remarked, flipping open the file. "Multiple identities, 3 fraudulent marriages, millions siphoned through their businesses. That's a lot of years behind bars, James." James forced a smirk, despite the fear creeping into his chest. "You think you have me figured out?" Rowe chuckled, shaking his head. "Your wives do, and they made sure we had all the evidence we needed." James' smirk faltered. He had underestimated them. He had believed they would fall apart, consumed by heartbreak. Instead, they had united, forging a bond out of shared betrayal and rage. They had planned his downfall meticulously, ensuring his name would be synonymous with disgrace. Back in Miami, Victoria, Olivia, and Camila gathered in Camila's oceanfront home, watching the news broadcast of James' arrest. Their glasses of wine clinked together as they silently celebrated their victory. "We did it," Olivia murmured, staring at the screen where James' mugshot was displayed. "He's finally paying for what he did to us." Victoria exhaled deeply. "It's not just about us. How many other women did he con? How many more lies did he tell?" Camila, ever the rational one, sipped her wine before speaking. "Justice is being served, but I can't shake the feeling that this isn't over. Men like James don't just accept defeat." As if on cue, Victoria's phone vibrated. She glanced at the screen, her face paling. "It's an unknown number." Hesitant but curious, she answered. "Hello." A slow, chilling laugh echoed through the speaker, making her grip the phone tighter. "You think you've won?" James' voice dripped with malice. "You have no idea what's coming." Victoria stiffened. "You're in jail, James. Your life is over." James chuckled darkly. "Is it? You think prison can hold me? You think your little revenge makes us even? You took everything from me, Victoria. You, Olivia, and Camila. You made a powerful enemy." Victoria's pulse raced. Olivia and Camila exchanged worried glances as they saw the fear in her eyes. "Stay away from us," she warned, her voice shaking despite her attempt to sound strong. "I will," James said smoothly. "For now. But remember this, revenge is a game that never truly ends." The line went dead. Victoria slowly lowered the phone, her hands trembling. "He's not done." Camila's eyes narrowed. "Then neither are we." Meanwhile, inside his prison cell, James leaned against the wall, a sinister smile creeping across his face. He had lost the battle, but the war had only just begun. He had powerful connections, and he was already planning his next move. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. Months passed, and the storm that James had left behind began to settle. Victoria and Olivia, despite their trauma, focused on the lives growing inside them. They had endured betrayal, heartbreak, and public humiliation. But now, they were determined to give their children a life free from their father's lies. Camila, the gynecologist whose skill had saved countless lives, found herself at the center of their journey. Both women had faced severe pregnancy complications, Victoria with hypertension, Olivia with a risky placenta previa. Camila had been their rock, guiding them through the treacherous months with unwavering support. On a stormy night in Miami, Victoria's contractions began. She was rushed to the hospital, fear and anticipation warring within her. Just as she was being wheeled into the delivery room, Olivia arrived, clutching her belly as labor pains seized her as well. Camila, now fully in her element, prepared herself. She had spent years mastering her craft, but tonight, the stakes felt personal. These weren't just patients. They were women bound by fate, deceived by the same man, yet stronger because of it. She vowed she would not let James' sins taint the lives of their innocent children. Hours of grueling labor passed. The tension was suffocating. Victoria, weak from blood loss, gritted her teeth as she fought to bring her son into the world. In the next room, Olivia's condition deteriorated rapidly as doctors worked to stabilize her. It was a race against time. Camila moved between both deliveries, her expertise stretched to its limits. Her hands trembled for the first time in her career, but she refused to fail them. With precise incisions, calculated breaths, and sheer determination, she guided both women through their darkest hour. Then victory. A sharp cry pierced the air. Victoria's son had arrived, his tiny fists flailing in protest. Camila barely had a moment to revel in the success before another cry echoed from the adjacent room. Olivia's daughter was born, healthy, her eyes wide and searching. Both mothers wept, holding their babies close. Camila, drenched in sweat, exhaled deeply. She had done it. News of the miraculous deliveries spread quickly. Camila's superiors, impressed by her composure and medical prowess, awarded her the highest honor in her field. She was offered a promotion, director of obstetrics at one of the most prestigious hospitals in the country. It was a moment of triumph, but deep down, Camila knew the battle wasn't over. 2 weeks later, in the stillness of the night, a figure stood outside Victoria's home, watching. James had escaped custody. His powerful allies had pulled strings, and now he was a ghost lurking in the shadows. Victoria's phone buzzed. "Unknown number. You thought you could erase me? I'm coming for what's mine." She gripped her sleeping son tighter, her heart hammering in her chest. Meanwhile, Olivia received the same message. Across the city, Camila's phone vibrated too. James was back, and this time he wasn't just after revenge. Victoria's hands trembled as she read the message. The weight of fear pressed on her chest, but she refused to let it consume her. Olivia, equally shaken, held her daughter close, a cold determination settling in her bones. Camila, upon seeing the same message, immediately contacted the authorities. She had worked too hard, saved too many lives, to let James Crawford destroy hers. But James was cunning. He had spent years manipulating his way through life, and now he had escaped, determined to reclaim what he believed was his power, control, and the women he had once deceived. The next night, security footage caught a dark figure lurking outside Olivia's home. A hooded man, pacing, waiting. The moment her lights went off, the figure moved toward the door. But before he could reach the handle, bright floodlights illuminated the porch. A piercing alarm blared through the neighborhood. Olivia watched from inside, clutching a kitchen knife, her heart racing. Moments later, sirens wailed in the distance. James fled into the darkness. Across town, Victoria and Camila sat in a police precinct, discussing strategies with law enforcement. James had powerful allies, but so did they. Camila had connections in the medical field. Olivia had friends in law, and Victoria had enough dirt on James' fraudulent dealings to bury him for good. This time, they wouldn't just wait for justice. They would make sure he never came near them again. The women banded together, each using their resources to dismantle every escape route James had. Victoria leaked details of his past crimes to journalists, exposing him in a nationwide scandal. Olivia worked with the FBI, tracing his financial movements and freezing his assets. Camila reached out to medical contacts, ensuring any hospital visit he attempted would alert authorities. James was cornered. Desperate, he made one final move. In the dead of night, he broke into Camila's house. He wanted leverage, a hostage, but what he didn't know was that Camila had anticipated his move. She had installed hidden cameras and a silent alarm that alerted the police the moment James stepped inside. As he crept through the hallway, a voice shattered the silence. "Looking for me?" Camila's voice was cold, unshaken. James turned, eyes wild. "You think you've won?" "I don't think," Camila said. "I know." Red and blue lights flashed outside. The front door burst open. Armed officers swarmed in, guns drawn. James lunged for Camila, but she sidestepped with practiced ease. Within seconds, he was tackled to the ground. His face slammed against the marble floor. This time, there were no powerful allies left to save him. James Crawford was done. 6 months later, Victoria, Olivia, and Camila sat together in a sunlit cafe, their children playing nearby. Their lives had been shattered, but they had rebuilt. Victoria had started a foundation for women who had been victims of deception and financial abuse. Olivia had joined a legal team advocating for tougher fraud laws. Camila, now the director of obstetrics, continued saving lives and mentoring young doctors. Justice had been served. And James? He had been sentenced to life without parole, with an ironclad restriction preventing him from ever contacting them or their children again. As Victoria watched her son laugh with Olivia's daughter, a deep sense of peace settled over her. The scars of the past remained, but they no longer defined her. She, Olivia, and Camila had won. They had taken back their power, and James Crawford would never hurt anyone ever again. The end.